Hello, my name's Chubblot, but because we're friends, you can call me Chubblot. Bard, Monk, Druid, Sorcerer, Barbarian, Paladin. Only the Tavatar, master of all 6 unreleased classes, could be the subject of today's video. But when the world needed her most, the game crashed. This video will contain datamined content and potential spoilers. If you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. This time around, we're talking about class. And no, I don't mean the archaic system that people are pretending is still relevant in a modern world.
Sacre bleu.
I'm talking about the thing that determines whether or not the laser beams you're shooting at people are made of fire or sound or pure unbridled rage. Compared to my racial tag video, if you haven't watched it, you should go and watch it. I hear it's really good. The unimplemented class tags require a lot less explanation, meaning that we can get straight into it.
A fellow paladin? What fortune. There are wrongs to right and we need help.
If the cleric isn't quite fulfilling your need for religious zealotry, then paladin might be the class you've been waiting for. Unfortunately, in terms of reactivity, paladins share the bulk of their dialogue options with clerics. That initially may seem a little disappointing, but keep in mind that the paladin tag is broken up in the same way the cleric tag is. While most class selections will land you with 1, maybe 2 class tags at the most, cleric and paladin can confer 3 tags to a character. You can be a good paladin, neutral paladin, or evil paladin. For most, good paladins would be considered the default. They are righteous and noble, and they can use their power to cleanse evil wherever they find it.
Slowly, her broken body starts to calm.
An evil paladin is the complete opposite. They are malicious and they revel in death and deception.
Hells. Death can't come quick enough for you.
And, as expected, neutral paladins reject either extreme.
Just like I was saying, I don't want all these lives on my conscience. We need to stay.
The game determines which alignment tag to apply to your character based on the god you choose to make an oath to. The god you choose to serve can also open up additional dialogue options.
Oh, I have something exquisite in mind.
Having 20 gods to choose from means that even if you have already played through the game as a cleric, as long as you don't pick the same god, you could have a very different experience as a paladin. While the 3 paladin tags do reference good, neutral and evil, the game currently doesn't actually track player alignment and likely won't even on full release. This is consistent with the comparative reduction in the importance of alignment in 5th edition. So you can totally play a refugee-saving, waitress-tipping paladin of Vlaakith, and nothing in the game, not even Vlaakith herself, will stop you. It's up to the player if they want to maintain or ignore their chosen god's alignment. The handful of paladin-related skills I tried out have very little implementation, with many having no animation or tangible effect. For example, Nature's Wrath worked on this goblin, but the binding effect meant as little to him as personal hygiene. Likewise, this redcap doesn't seem to know that it's a fae.
All that flash comes natural, does it? Careful you don't go sticking those hands where they're not invited. No telling what you might zap.
Proof that nepotism isn't always a bad thing, sorcerers are magic users that gain their power from an internal font of magic, or because one of their parents took the phrase "conquer your dragons" like 30 steps too far. Like the other arcane spellcasting classes, sorcerers can weigh in on all manner of magical conundrum.
Magic such as this doesn't arise naturally.
They get a bonus when trying to resist magical effects.
Nothing even approaching a useful thought in that skull.
They can sense when they're confronted by a being with some sort of inherent magical ability.
I was quite the wild thing back in the day, but I'm afraid that's long past.
And their intrinsic link to magic allows them to not only detect its presence,
You detect traces of decaying magic within him.
but also describe its flavour.
Are you saying it wasn't the bite?
Gale's so hammy he probably tastes like despair.
How can ham taste like despair?
Sorcerers are all about the passives, and while I could find draconic passives and meta magic in the game files, I couldn't implement them. So here's a small selection of unavailable spells in the Sorcerer's catalogue. Now don't take the requirements or levels of these spells to heart. I had to modify them to make them usable without breaking the current level cap. Like the majority of the Paladin skills, Counterspell and Cloud of Daggers didn't seem to do anything. Comprehend Languages, however, seems to be almost completely implemented. And although Chromatic Orb's tooltip looks pretty good, currently it only does lightning damage and it definitely looks more like a dart than it does an orb. But my favourite one had to be Lightning Bolt! While there are currently no animations for it, the pure range of the spell is ridiculous. I can imagine I'm going to have a lot of fun carving through waves of goblins with this spell.
Brace and step and swivel swing!
If your first response upon seeing the Red Lantern Corps was, well, they look like some stand-up blokes, then Barbarian might be the class for you. Alongside their ability to weaponize their own rage, Barbarians are capable of huge feats of strength.
The chains snap as you expand your chest.
They're also experts in intimidation, being able to intimidate everything from goblins...
But please don't! I won't rat you out, I swear!
...to Githyanki...
Finally, I find a wolf in a world of lowing cattle.
...to an ox...
You'd give me a choice?
...and perhaps most impressively...
I am ready.
Maybe it's the result of constant head trauma, but Barbarians can say some pretty stupid things. Like asking Best Girl Alfira to write a song about goblin spines.
Ooh, that's very... visceral.
Telling Halsin they saved him because they like bears.
Ah, lunatic then.
Offering to punch their way through a door with infinite health for Shadowheart.
You'll probably break your arm.
And being concerningly on board with Ormelem's suggestion to create a catastrophic cranial cavity.
You would not survive the outcome.
As far as skills go, Barbarians are pretty straightforward. Again, I was able to find the totem skills, but I couldn't do anything with them. It would seem as though Rage is almost completely implemented, but that would make sense as it's quite a simple ability.
Another bard who thinks humour is the same as talent. Cute.
Well, Dad, I hope you're watching because this class makes arts degrees cool.
I'm not okay.
Bards get the most eclectic mix of responses by far. We're not talking about triple threats, we're talking about quintuple threats. They're expert storytellers.
A gold dragon! How marvellous. Thank heaven you were here to specify, or I might have recorded a bold-faced lie.
They can sing their way past spiders.
They are suspicious, then curious, and finally at peace.
Mushroom people.
You detect a distinct quiver in every note.
They can even rap their way past some goblin guards.
Aye, now that's a beat. Needs drumming though. Got some skulls inside you could use. Go on.
And of course they get a bonus to most performance checks.
Oh my god, yes! Gaga, you look beautiful! You look so beautiful!
Bard also gave me one of the most corruptible pieces of dialogue that I have seen in a game for a very long time.
Why are you... Wait. Why am I wet?
The Bard spells and skills I tried had varying levels of implementation. Bardic Inspiration doesn't currently do anything. Vicious Mockery is lacking both voice work and animation. But the spell itself does work because the hag can use it on you. I wasn't able to find a use for Identify, but that's probably because everything in the game is currently identified anyway. That may suggest that we'll be getting unidentified objects further down the line. Song of Rest looks a lot like Prayer of Healing. And I really tried to figure out if mending was working. First I smashed a crate and tried to restore it, but that did nothing. So I thought maybe it's an object-specific healing spell, but nope. As a bit of a Hail Mary, I spawned in one of the damaged armors that are listed in the game files, and that also didn't work. But here's the Tavatar modelling Yeezy 2020's take on a Githyanki half-plate. It's fashion.
You really blossomed out there. Took the battle by storm. It looked like a breeze.
Aside from apparently being the perfect fodder for dad jokes, the game doesn't have too much to say about druids right now. Given the abundance of druids featured in Act 1, it makes sense that you'd get quite a lot of druid-specific responses in the Grove.
Lucky you.
Some people like you.
It is you who should be praised, sister. You are Sylvanus' instrument.
But most are suspicious.
Druid or not, you're still an outsider to this place.
And Aaron even offers you a discount.
Is there anything you need? I lower my prices for fellow druids.
But if we're being honest, you're probably going to rob him anyway.
Nobody breaks the law on my watch.
You'll be happy to hear that you get a bonus to almost every skill check involved in saving Arabella.
The words of the Tree Father, spoken plain.
You can debate druidic philosophy with the would-be child murderer, Korga.
A disease of the flower must not reach the root. Pluck the petals, sever the branch if you must, but cut out the rot before it infects the whole of the wood. Teachings of the Tree Father, do you agree? Then you know I heed his wisdom. I protect the circle, whatever the cost.
And as a druid, you gain an inherent understanding of the Grove's murals.
Harp and wild, a riddle to some, but you understand the meaning immediately.
You get a bonus to nature checks.
World class at tearing the throats out of wee ones, she is.
You have a downright pharmaceutical understanding of plants.
What?
And for some reason, you can flex on this ox.
I would change into a two-legs like you. But how?
Who, as it turns out, has a more compelling personal goal than most anime protagonists.
Perhaps we are the true keepers. I will learn to walk on two legs, friend, and perhaps I will teach them.
I had a lot of fun with the druid abilities I tried out. Produce Flame doesn't seem to do too much yet. Thorn Whip is immensely satisfying right now as it's a cantrip that works as a ranged shove, but this could be a placeholder effect. As far as I can tell, Thorn Whip is supposed to pull rather than push, so this could change. Gust of Wind is an area shove like Thunder Wave, but it seems to have a shorter area of effect. On the other hand, it does apply a debuff to enemies that apparently lowers their movement the closer they get to the caster. The wild shapes are pretty lackluster in effect at this early stage, but I had plenty of fun creeping around as Aragog's smaller cousin and pickpocketing oblivious goblins.
Must have been the wind.
And you'll be happy to know that this is how they climb ladders.
Key? Maybe you can show me a few tricks. Give me a few pointers. I promise I won't show you up. Well, maybe a little.
Topping the list of classes least likely to be shown up by freaking One-Eyed Willy over there, monks are masters of martial arts. And elemental manipulation. And maybe ninjutsu? The monk class had the least reactivity in game by a wide margin, which is a shame because the class really started to grow on me as I played. Monks are very spiritual beings. Even their threats sound like something out of a fortune cookie.
I ain't after fulfillment. I'm after the filling of my pockets.
They rely on intense focus and discipline in combat.
Like this, then. Focus. Focus. And strike! Yes!
They can use meditation to endure not only physical pain,
such resilience,
but mental pain as well.
Drawing on a lifetime of practice, you center yourself. Your body is an anchor, implacable and calm.
And they've all but mastered the ancient art of reflexively kicking territorial squirrels to death.
You claim victory over the squirrel, though you're not sure why you were fighting to begin with.
Like Druid, monk skills were surprisingly fun to play around with. I wasn't able to get the open hand skills to do anything. Water Whip was a nice little ranged attack, but I never had it knock anyone around like it's supposed to do. Shape the Flowing River makes a very unfinished, untextured box appear. It's obviously not coded in properly yet as it doesn't respond at all like a destructible ice block. And while Shadow Step is in, its description links it specifically to a certain spoilery NPC. I've redacted the name as this video isn't about unimplemented story spoilers, and I don't want to ruin anything for anyone. I'd ask that if you do know who it's attached to, don't say anything in the comments. Let's try to respect that some people have boundaries when it comes to what exactly they want to be spoiled on. Maybe if there's interest, we can talk about story spoilers in another video. And if seeing this made you desperately want to play Monk, well, you can. There's a really interesting mod that was made by Chance Santana Weeze and uploaded to the Nexus, and it does a more than admirable job of implementing Monk using what's already coded in. A far better job than anything I could manage. There's a link in the description, and if you do download it and enjoy it, be sure to thank the creator. Modders often do a lot of tedious work for no reward, so the least we can do is thank them. But now all that's left for me to do is to thank you for watching. So thank you, Timothy, for watching. Bye-bye.
I am the Druid Halsin.
Why am I wet?